Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel and video game news. Today is Friday, July 21st. So, potentially a lot of chaos is happening in my life right now, so I may need to take a phone call at any point, and honestly I could see this uh, chaos expanding to the point where maybe I would stop live streaming for a while or forever, or making content at all forever or for a while. Everything is potentially up in the air. But then again, also, it's possible that nothing happens at all. Um, which almost is just standard operating procedure for the real world. Is that all of those things pretty much could have happened at any point, anyways. Um, Suffice it to say, though, I spent yesterday uh, not being productive, and so I really haven't made any footage at all since Wednesday, and so we'll just leave it at that. In part, the one thing I will speak on, because I'm obviously not speaking on a lot of this in details, is uh, when I put up that smart ceiling fan and installed it, I was standing on a mattress, standing on a bed, and that caused my thigh muscles, back of my leg muscles, whatever those are called, to overextend. So they are now sore, as if they've had a good workout, although they probably had a very poor workout, because a good workout would be structured exercise in safe and scientifically proven manners, not just overextending them. But yeah, I think they'll heal just fine. We didn't have that too many legacy packs today, so we got one new card here, one new card here. What's funny about this is that Battle Warrior, for instance, is a card I've seen tons of times before. I would have sworn I already owned that, but apparently not. Where Synthesis Spell is something I've never seen before, but also seems like it's a ritual card for ritual summoning specific things. I would say my suspicion is that ritual summons are probably one of the worst things that were added to Yu-Gi-Oh! As far as the number of cards. Like, if we went with rituals cards alone and just filtered, yeah, there's perhaps not that many of them overall, and I guess that's nice that they didn't go too far in that direction, but for each one of these cards there is probably at least one ritual summoning spell card too, and I just don't think the idea of having a unique spell to uniquely ritual summon, which in the anime would have been relinquished, would have been the first ritual summoned thing. So yeah, Black Illusion Ritual. To have a unique card that can only summon one, maybe two things as far as a spell ritual card, and then having these cards that are in your hand but can't be played without the ritual spell because they're so overpowered, really I think hurts the overall state of what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is now. That being said, that's looking 25 years in the past backwards, because you would have had originally just normal cards and then effect cards. And perhaps a better argument could be made that normal cards existing there's way more of those, and they have flooded Steam, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Um, collection more than ritual cards have. So, yeah, if you were going to remake Yu-Gi-Oh, you would get rid of all the normal cards. You'd get rid of the ritual cards. You would have Synchro and XYZ cards be merged, because I don't think there really is too much of a difference between a Synchro and an XYZ. XYZ has some extra features, certainly, but that's kind of it. I really don't even know what a link card is. Let's see. Link cards are the ones that point to things. Well, then what is an XYZ? Yeah. XYZ just uses collections of cards. Yeah. So it's pretty easy, I think, to merge the ideas of fusion, ritual, synchro, XYZ, and link. Pendulum summoning is doing a little bit different as to how it's all played, but if you could get at least 5 out of these 6 later types of cards that were added pretty much with every new Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime spin-off, if you could merge that back down into just being mostly effect cards, the game could be fairly simplified. Whereas there's only slight arguments to get rid of like quick play spells. You could have spells that just say resolves first instead of having your own separate category. You could probably get rid of counter traps too, as far as resolves first as a key phrase. You definitely could get rid of a significant amount of these types to bring it down to maybe 4 or 5, 6 or 7 types. Honestly, you could probably get rid of types altogether. And you could probably also squeeze down the levels from 0 stars to 4 as far as just being 1 star, and then 5 to 7 being 2 stars, and then 8, 9, 10 maybe being 3 stars, and then 11, 12, 13 maybe being 4 stars. Certainly you could get rid of rarity elements. These abilities like Tune, Gemini, Union Spirit, Turn or Flip, and Special Summon. It's not very many of those, and obviously you could get rid of different foil covers. Speaking of getting rid of things, my favorite lewd waifu gacha game, Destiny Child, has announced that they are shutting down, ending service in September. They are going to put out a patch. The whole app needed to be rebooted there. Interesting. They're going to put out a final patch that turns it into a memorial service. So one assumes that's going to let you look at the anime waifus made in live 2D after the fact. But that's probably all it's going to let you do. There are definitely a decent enough elements to Destiny Child that are not server-based player versus player, but everything always is checked on the server. Let's see what's going on. I was having trouble when running my macro with the opening a browser page. Let's see. Yeah, and that usually means the clock, and I just ran the clock and told it to synchronize, and it did seem to make a significant jump there. So I don't know what happened there as far as the network connection and my Windows computer not synchronizing the clock. Yep, but as soon as I did sync the clock, it started to work. Yeah. If your clock drifts enough, the OpenSSL or SSL implementation of your choice will not be accurate, and so that probably tells you that a secure connection is being made to the servers and back from Yu-Gi-Oh, and that seems like that's fairly obvious. Secure, minimal security at least, you know. Some form of encryption doesn't potentially mean that it's a good form of encryption, and that certain programs couldn't use Wireshark to cut through the traffic like butter and see what's going on. And certain cheap programs almost certainly could do some of that, or at least will try. In fact, yeah, if you're having network problems where web pages are not opening up, but you do see that a network connection is made and some web pages are opening up and some aren't, it is ridiculous, but your first best bet is to check the clock and see if the clock is set right. I think it's probably a little ridiculous in Windows that the clock isn't better at either popping up a warning. I'm on Windows 10, or confirming the time. But if anything, it's a feedback error more than anything else. Like that Firefox and Chrome-based browsers do not recognize that error as being potentially from a clock and saying, as a first step, check and see if your clock is wrong. And instead it just says something incredibly cryptic like SSL internal error, which means nothing to anybody, even IT people. It points it to the socket secure layer, sure, but that's it. And even in the case of Yu-Gi-Oh, something went wrong, hit reboot is a very generic error handling. Guess we can't do anything, so we'll just end the turn. So yeah, Destiny Child end of service. I talked about just maybe a week ago how they were giving away massive amounts of their premium currency blood gems and doing this big summer event, and perhaps they gave away too many things from blood gems, but that probably wasn't the case. Shift Up, the makers of Destiny Child, had released their new game Nikke about a year ago, and they'd been in part acquired or funded by Tencent. And so we are seeing an example here of Tencent really ruining community support for an old game in favor of Nikke, which is a much more expensive game that you really cannot engage with if you're a free-to-play player. Arguably, maybe the sad state is that you can't succeed by having a mobile game that is free-to-play friendly, and you have to have gacha games that are incredibly, incredibly expensive. I don't think that's really true though, because while Destiny Child, being for adults only, never got into the top list of mobile charts, on the Destiny Child subreddit, there has been conversations every few months as far as how well on the charts it is selling and how profitable it was. And it was always like in the top 20 of the best-selling mobile games out there, which even that is extremely surprising. So it was making money, and certainly the whales on Destiny Child were spending money. I don't think I can do anything here. This might be better just to surrender. Yeah. But yeah, Destiny Child always had the possibility of you spending hundreds of dollars a month if you wanted to. My biggest complaint and concern, I think I will just start ending my turn here. I can't surrender per se, but I can stop playing and save time that way. Yeah, my main concern here is they're not going to finish the story, which would suck. The second suck there is that they're going to rush the end of the story. And the third suck there is that they're going to end the story, but it's going to be for the new character Mitra with the new artist and new art style. And so we very possibly are never getting back to the original art of the main character, who was just always referred to as Master before. And we're very possibly never going to get back to the original 3 succubus companion characters in Mona, Lisa, and Davy in favor of the 3 new companion characters and the new artist. Most irritatingly, though, I would say that's going to, it's probably going to be a rush to defeat the big bad characters that have been teased, because there was 3 brothers. One, I believe, it was never even shown, that seemed like they were the big bad guys. The youngest of the brother caused the major change and defeated the Master character and caused the Mitra character to appear in a dramatic midway point of this narrative, of this multi-year narrative that is slowly updated every month or 2 or 3. Although most of the narratives lately have been side mission narratives that have just really not gone anywhere. If anything, what I would have hoped is that they would have given the global version of Destiny Child more time, because it was behind the Japanese version, which was behind the Korean version as far as the narrative stuff. But eventually I think they did catch up the global version to at least the Japanese version. The biggest, outside of the potential ending problems with Destiny Child, is that it's not going to be a satisfactory ending, and it really is a game that was designed to go on forever. But outside of that, there's just not really a lot of other games that are anywhere close to it. Like, nothing's really competed well. If you want lewd anime waifus and a completely different style of game, you would go to Nikkei, but why put your faith in Nikkei when it's very possibly going to be abandoned once Shift Up has their next game, which is an attempt at a AAA game, out. Shift Up is just too small of a company, and Tencent obviously not giving them enough funding to hire new people to maintain their old game. This also kills the spin-off tower defense game that isn't made by Shift Up eventually. Which, yeah. I forget the name of it. Something like Destiny Child Defense. And they just kind of licensed the art to that game. Which that does potentially open the door that somebody else could just license the art of the characters. Which, you know, that wouldn't be the worst idea ever. If all of a sudden you saw the same characters, but there was a different gameplay mechanic around the characters. But that would be fairly boring for any fans of the original Destiny Child if some other game came out and you were just seeing the same characters reused. You'd still need an artist to make new characters. That's how gacha games work, is you have to constantly add new things to pull for in the chest. They've made everything like free in their store, effectively free. It's costing 1 in-game gold currency to buy things that often would have cost $99 in real world money. But even purchasing all of that is only going to get you so far to potentially fill out your collection, and it's really questionable what things you should try to fill out and what things you shouldn't try to fill out. I would say if the memorial service really is just seeing all the characters, then you need to try to get at least 1 copy of every character you can, and unless they do something really crazy and bring back the collab characters, you're not going to be able to get all of them. I don't know why I'm bothering to play. I said I should just end the turn and give up. Well, I think we've played long enough. Let's see if we can surrender and if it'll have a complaint about that. Let's see. Yeah, surrendering gives you nothing. This Labyrinth deck, I don't think I particularly like. This Bladed Creatures of Nightmares deck, I think I kind of do like. But yeah, I have no idea really what you should be going for other than characters. You should probably be looking to see if you could get as many skins as possible, but you're not going to get a lot of help there as far as getting skins. If characters do get skins when you awaken them, but that would take a lot of Onyx to do it that way versus the special skins, which are slightly more interesting and varied. These spa skins, there's definitely a feature in the spa that says it was coming, and obviously that feature is never coming for real. You might try to get spa skins, certainly. But yep. Ideally, the Memorial update would get rid of just the player versus player stuff, which would be the first PvP thing, which I forget the name of, Endless Duel. Then if you almost would hope it would get rid of the stamina system too, So if you got rid of the stamina system, that would be great. You can't get rid of the item system and the puppet system and things like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it would become very difficult to if not impossible to make puppets in particular, since that is a very late system that was only added maybe a month, maybe a year ago. But yeah, you get rid of player versus player, you keep the story mode, maybe you get rid of the story battle challenges, maybe not. Like, you probably would want to keep the story battle challenges in the story mode. But I could see the memorial service being very simplistic and it only keeps the story mode, or it doesn't even keep that much. What it's going to come down to is how much do they really want the game to be able to download if you installed the game on a new device, because that's where the death of this game really will happen. If you installed Destiny Child on a new device and you connected it to the right account, which there is a specific account they were mentioning it needed to be connected to, but yeah, if you installed it on a new device and it had to download all of the music and story and characters, you're talking several gigabytes of internet traffic that eventually I think ShiftUp is not going to want to pay for. So I wouldn't be surprised if they shut down those servers completely eventually and you're not able to reinstall the game, and so potentially we'll have to keep a copy of it installed no matter what, just to see the characters, which in fairness I don't know if I really would go back and look at the characters. Like, they're fun and all, but they're very much close to porn in the sense that you just look at them and then once you've seen it, once it's in that spank bank, memory bank of yours, you kind of don't need to look at them a second time. I definitely wouldn't be going to the Memorial Final Update version of Destiny Child on a daily basis to look at the characters. Not unless they can give me some things I can do still. If they kept the stamina system, for instance, but you couldn't do any of the online stuff. If they kept the spa system, which the spa system really was only to increase stats to go against player versus player. But yeah, some of those systems certainly, if you think enough about them, could be heavily accelerated once there's no monetized reason for them. And that's the problem with all mobile games, or most mobile games, is that you have these stamina systems that are slowing things down, so you come back, so you watch ads. Which, in all fairness, I've had ad blockers on it the whole time, so I've not been a very good, even free-to-play player. But yeah. It would be nice if all the characters you owned, if just by the fact that I own pretty much all the characters except for 2 or 3 of the collab kids, if all of those characters were fully upgraded to the maximum versions of their outfits and their appearance for free, that would be the most generous way to do that. Otherwise, I am just likely going to have this Memorial update version that's going to be as good as it can be, but it won't be that good. And it's going to take some extra time, certainly, too. Meanwhile, I can't assume that the equipment system is going to be removed from the Memorial thing, so I'm trying to own at least one of everything on as far as the piece of equipment, even if they're not going to be leveled up to any level. Undeniably, I should be a lot more upset about the end of the game, but it has been going on for many years. But yeah, I've put in a ridiculous amount of time on that, and for lack of a direct replacement of a Destiny Child for some other lewd waifu type game, I'm probably going to play with Star Trek Lower Decks longer than I potentially would have. That being said, Star Trek Lower Decks is not a very interactive game. It's a login once every hour or two and click a few things and then leave, which probably is going to also then push me towards playing more Marvel Snap, which I'm not super thrilled with Marvel Snap. It could push me to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel on my phone, but frankly, playing Yu-Gi-Oh! On the phone is not particularly great. And none of those games, though, are really automated. And that's the one, that was the first thing that caught my attention before even the characters caught my attention in Destiny Child. Was the fact that with having a bit of arthritis in my fingers, being able to just automate the game and let it play itself and just watch it play itself was fairly nice. I'm activating things, but I'm not winning. I feel like I probably was winning earlier when this event first started because people just didn't know how to play these cards. That being said, it seems like the move now is to actually learn how to play the cards because other people have. Speaking of changes, Lego, although I haven't actually bought anything since like December of last year in Lego, and I still have a ton of Lego anyways. But yeah, Lego has changed, or is in the process of changing its reward loyalty program, which makes me assume that the Lego VIP program is going to be made even worse than it was last time they made changes. So, yeah. I think it's very believable that my enjoyment of Lego overall has hit a plateau. I haven't had the energy and desire to put together a lot of sets. And so when I first started doing Lego, it was very minimal, and then it ballooned out to quite a lot, and now I think it's probably at a plateau, if not a falling downward pitfall, which is probably a good thing. You know, I could take all the Lego sets I haven't done right now, and if I put together one every 12 months or so, go for several years. And that's only if I do one every 12 months. I could certainly see myself doing one per year. Let's see. Well, while this guy's playing, let's start going through the video game news. PlayStation 5, it's been claimed, and this is Video Games Chronicle, will get a temporary $50 price cut. The console will reportedly go on sale in the UK, US, and Germany. I don't know why a temporary price cut might potentially happen, other than just a general sale for Christmas, Black Friday, things like that. If anything, the PlayStation 5 has been selling very well in Japan, and they've started to finally have stock in Japan. So, I don't see why you would cut the prices down in other countries. According to GameDeveloper.com, Google, Meta, and other tech companies are going to establish AI, quote, safeguards. AI legislation is still ways off, but companies such as Microsoft and Amazon say they have committed themselves to transparency and independent third-party testing for their individual AI technology. Which, yeah, that's not super surprising that tech companies have learned to claim they will self-regulate on things before politicians get involved. That is probably a good thing in the long run for them to at least have the pretense of self-regulation to set down a first draft if the government needs to come in, if a government needs to come in and put stronger controls. It's probably better to have that first draft if somebody like the EU came in and said, alright, we see what your self-regulation first draft is all about. Now we're going to put more stringent controls on it than that, but in the same areas and same directions. Koei Tecmo of Europe put out this notice for Nobunaga's Ambition Awakening, in that they are going to add the Japanese voice audio to the English versions of the game, which is, if anything, just highlighting that Koei Tecmo is doing something that should be done for all Japanese games by default, but it's somewhat understandable how crazy the licensing of voice rights are in Japan, that a lot of the Japanese voice actors and actresses either straight up don't want their voice acting outside of released on the English versions, or the Koei Tecmo publisher or developers don't want Japanese voice acting on the English version in case the English version becomes cheaper, and they're afraid of reverse importation, in which a Japanese person buys the English version for cheaper than buying the probably more expensive Japanese version of a game. We have another story that's going to come up as far as AI using impersonating voice actors. or software being able to listen to how some voice actor talks in a line of dialogue and then emulating them particularly well. And so that may be in part the threat to Japanese voice actors that is perhaps in part pushing them towards being more willing to license their voices to the English versions. That being said, that's probably not a good thing. I also wonder, and will speculate somewhat more, on the value of voice acting overall in the future. Because, you know, it's really hard to look forward in the future and see that there really is any value in voice acting, or that it's going to be really hard for game developer companies and just artistic people in general, animation, to really value the voice acting of a voice actor enough that we don't just see it eventually become all AI, all computer generated of some sort as far as voice acting goes. That being said, there may just be an uncanny valley more than I think for audio, in the same way that there's an uncanny valley for video. Because we definitely have hit points here in video games where that uncanny valley certainly still exists. You can't just launch a video game right now and say it looks exactly like a movie and that the animation is just as good and people can't even tell the difference. Yep. And so we may hit the same thing on audio, where it may always sound computer generated. And we, as game players, may always just want real human voice actors. That being said, there are a lot of visual novels out there with no voice acting. There's a lot of games out there with no voice acting. So it's not always necessary. Unlike movies, where you can't really make a silent film where there's no voice acting. There is potentially also a little bit of protection on voice actors in video games, I think, in that game developers, for the foreseeable future, like to rub elbows with celebrities, and voice actors are close enough to celebrities, particularly if you are stunt casting and bringing in actual actors like Keanu Reeves. And so if game developers want to be friendly and rub elbows with Keanu Reeves, then they have to have voice acting and real voice acting show up. And so there may just be a heavier desire amongst game developers to maintain and keep voice actors. Voice actors can be a pain, certainly, but there's so few of them, and the trouble they cause is not big enough to heavily push to completely get rid of them. And honestly, they're not that expensive. Sure, voice acting can add a lot to a small time budget, but when you're talking $300 million games, AAA games, you're not spending $1 million on voice acting. of that budget. I'm probably not using this toy vendor card correctly. And I've kind of forgotten the strategy here. Moving on to the next story, I think I probably will want to just stop playing fairly early today. If we can get the daily quest done, I think that's really where it wants to go. I'm not really in the best of moods to want to keep on playing. Let's see. There's this Video Games Chronicle article. Microsoft Activision Blizzard's acquisition bodes well for Ubisoft, according to the CEO. The anticipated mega merger validates Ubisoft's strategic focus, according to Yves Guillemot. And I find that, just on the headline, confusing to say the least, because Ubisoft's strategic focus has definitely not been to acquire companies. If anything, Ubisoft has been anti-acquisition, as Viacom or Vivendi, I forget which one, was trying to acquire Ubisoft for many years, and they were fighting that off. I don't think really at any of that point did Ubisoft acquire any companies, even after, in the recent year or two, that they haven't had to deal with potentially being acquired. They haven't acquired companies. So I don't see where the connection is being made. At a certain level, I guess Ubisoft games are on Microsoft platforms. So he could be saying that we are right to continue to put our games on Microsoft platforms because obviously Microsoft is just going to become a slightly bigger company. But that really doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's see, how many of these do we have left to do? We have 9 days left to play 27 more games, or special summon 27 more times, normal summon 5 more times, and play 18 more games. Destroy cards, duel and solo mode. Sadly, it looks like we do have a little bit more that would benefit from doing it. Ritual Synchro XYZ summon potentially doesn't happen if I play any of the event. So I think it probably is smart to do this. Let's play ranked. And hopefully we can get 2 wins and not really screw this up. So Yves Schimo, in more details, was asked about the Activision deal, and he says, "I think it's good news that this transaction could go through because it really shows the power of IPs and where the industry is going. So there will be a lot of opportunities too in the future for all companies, and it's showing the value of IPs that can now be on console and PC, but also mobile, because more worldwide brands. When we say worldwide, it's really everywhere in the world, and that's a fantastic opportunity." And Microsoft is saying that the mobile part of Activision deal is important, so all the investment we're making to be stronger in the mobile are also in line with that. So all those elements will help value the companies to grow. So mostly he's talking about mobile. The first two paragraphs he's talking about IPs, which arguably you take Assassin's Creed off the table, and I can't really name another Ubisoft game that is a strong IP. Like, I know Watch Dogs exists, but I wouldn't really call it a strong IP. Okay. And as far as mobile goes, I just don't know what Ubisoft really has on mobile. Yeah. And I would say I mostly don't agree with the idea of Microsoft actually going to be majorly successful around mobile gameplay, or Microsoft trying to break into mobile. I kind of understand that they should try, but I don't have a lot of faith that they will succeed there. I didn't realize I'd gone second and couldn't attack. I thought I was just going to build up a whole team and then have to wait a whole turn. Larry Herb, formerly Major Nelson, is apparently not really tweeting the Free Code Fridays or promoting Microsoft stuff anymore. He's shifting away from that, so we have a retweet of Tony Bennett dying at 96, which I would have assumed he was already dead. But instead we just have Happy Friday Friends. And then here you have, I think this is supposed to be Barbie and Oppenheimer as far as movie order poll. And then he retweeted on the 19th Phil Spencer and the Stellar Shift editions. But it does seem like Free Code Fridays, if he was promoting that before, I think he was. He's just not going to promote anymore. And it certainly makes sense that he would just start to scale down his involvement with Xbox. Although, in all fairness, I have seen previous CEOs and people in major managers at least wait until they'd actually left the company and not done it kind of preemptively. Although, in all fairness, it's very possible that Larry Herb has left the company. He's not going into the office. He's not like taking emails. He's just using up accrued vacation time, or is on double secret suspension and not telling anybody. Like, Larry Herb is high enough up there that if he was actively fired for something horrific and awful, they may still take forever to create that split and actually let him go. Like, he may have a contract that's like 2 months notice, or until a contract ends, that Microsoft wouldn't be willing to break it. That being said, I doubt that's what really happened, because it definitely seemed to me like Larry Herb was not particularly going to be involved, even like a year ago, if you followed the podcast, once that third mic person was added. I was bored yesterday, in part, and I tried to listen to the Giant Bombcast, and yep, the most recent Giant Bombcast does not work for me. It seems like they may have lost a couple more people, or maybe it was just this 1 week. But yeah, it also just seems like they're really doing everything through Zoom now, and I could not even care about what any of the people were saying. So, and that's the thing, is it was such a personality driven podcast back in the day that you had to actually care about the people talking, and if you don't care about the people talking, then yeah, you're going to not pay attention to it. I don't think I'm going to be able to destroy a card unless I get one of the Zodiac cards. So we'll see if we can get a Zodiac card. No such luck. You can see how the cards that I'm playing right now have much higher win rates than the loner decks that we were given for the event. At the end of the day, I also have to remind myself I'm here to win, not to goof off. So everything needs to be done in service of a victory. Even if it seems like it's not necessary. The next story we have from Video Games Chronicle is that Hogwarts Legacy has topped the European game sales for the first half of 2023. It's ahead of Diablo 4, FIFA 2023, and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Grand Theft Auto 5. Which, yeah, I definitely feel like I probably missed some hype around Hogwarts Legacy, and if I was a bigger, more successful YouTuber, it would have made a lot of sense to try and stream that quickly and play the game quickly to get more views. I guess perhaps I have a small desire here to actually like a Harry Potter game, as somebody who really didn't. I was just frankly too old to really be into Harry Potter anything. I also hear that the Earthsea series or the Discworld series are way better books, and that Harry Potter books are not really that good. Although it just kind of doesn't matter if they're good or not. They're popular, and there's something for the new generation, and there'll just be something else. They almost certainly were more popular than the Percy Jackson series, for example, which would have been a competitor and a potential success for a new generation of fantasy young readers. Yeah, notably, if you are writing fantasy for young readers, you're assuming that they haven't read much fantasy anyway, so it doesn't have to be particularly that good. And I definitely do suspect that part of the reason why Hogwarts Legacy succeeds is that there's some decent decisions being made, and one of those decisions definitely is to set it in a time before Voldemort, so you don't have to deal with Harry Potter or Voldemort as a character, whereas the Harry Potter Magic Awakened game was set in a time after Voldemort, which also potentially could have been interesting, but then there's a heavy reliance to want to go back and have flashbacks to sequences and mentions of Harry Potter. And I just don't think that works particularly well as an idea, that Harry Potter potentially is this savior-like character in the Harry Potter future timeline, and that they're just going to talk about him with reverence when he really isn't that good of a character. Or that interesting of a character. Okay, I'm gonna have to be careful here about how I play my cards. Okay. I may be in trouble. My goal here is going to be to have enough cards in the graveyard now. Do I want to push this further? Guess I do. might have been able to do something else first, but first let's get rid of this. There's a card. Hey, that worked out better than I thought it was going to. I didn't realize that that card was going to destroy all the monsters on the field. I thought I was going to have to really struggle more. I'm still not getting the destroyer card requirement for daily quest done though. Whatever. GameDeveloper.com has an article here. The FTC apparently has a suspended administrative challenge to the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal. This likely means that the purchase of Activision Blizzard will go through. We still have the CMA issue to deal with in the UK, but it's not apparently the FTC. They're not doing anything else other than appealing the preliminary injunction denial, which you kind of had to do that at a certain level. Like, yeah, it's a waste of taxpayers' money to pursue two procedural actions at the same time, and so they're seeing if their appeal goes through. If the appeal went through, then I imagine they might reopen the procedural actions, but it's not seeming like that would really happen. You know, I've been playing this card for over a year and I still don't know if this card activates because it's pointing at other linked characters, or if it just activates when this one summons in. Now arguably I'm throwing too many cards in the graveyard. Here's that story from GameDeveloper.com. Voice actors are worried about modders cloning their voice with AI. Actor Victoria Atkin and Tim Friedlander are worried about how the voices are being cloned using generative AI technology. I assume this in particular is people using AI to make mods to put them in situations that are more of an adult nature that they don't morally agree with, but it could also just be directly an idea of them not getting paid for voice acting that they would have otherwise been paid for. There is certainly the danger of the thought that there is no such thing as art, really. When it comes to acting. And that's a kind of silly statement to make, but follow along the thought pattern here. Voice acting is putting inflection on your voice. Your voice is just a bunch of a complicated pattern, complicated enough in the past to be considered unique, of frequencies, and multiple frequencies overlapping each other. I really hate this card, not knowing what that is. The problem here is that with improved technology and artificial intelligence, we can copy, and we have made what once was complicated and unique as far as a collection of voice lines and sounds and frequencies. With AI, we've reduced it down to being very little of, or nothing at all. And audio, in particular, is about a tenth of, anywhere from 10% to 1% of the amount of data you need just size-wise, compared to video. So we're definitely approaching a point where video too will potentially become trivialized. That's a good word to use. Just straight up trivialized. And once audio and video from actors becomes trivialized, particularly if you're scanning the actions of a actor, and then putting that wireframe animation onto if you're putting the wireframe animation onto a generic 3D model, that's even more trivial than actually having full video of motions. We've already gotten to the point where dances have been legally declared as not being enough of a thing to deserve copyright. There was that whole Fortnite dance thing. Yeah, Fortnite copying people's dances, and then the dancers suing Epic. I mean, Unreal. Yeah, I think Epic is Unreal. Yeah. So if we know that dance moves aren't enough to really deserve copyright, and we know voice acting is potentially in the future going to be trivialized enough to lose its copyright, any kind of creation that an artist can make is potentially a thing that won't have copyright, or we're going to have to redefine and rethink how we do copyright. I'm gonna select a bunch of cards here that aren't going to do too much more. fighting hard here to actually win, and I think I will win. Not sure what this effect is. If I was to activate it. But I do think it's fairly obvious I need to move fast. There we go, we finally get a destroyed card. Okay, so my hope here is we can just attack here and win. And that'll be the last game for today. And that will get us to platinum. And being July 21st and having this other event, I definitely am not going to be able to make it to Diamond. Potentially with the end of Destiny Child as my lewd waifu game that I play and spend a lot of time on, I could play more of this and do dailies on Yu-Gi-Oh! And get more out of Yu-Gi-Oh! But honestly, I don't see myself doing that. It's not a good enough game. And apparently, you needed to have come in and looked at the daily quest. I may have to remember to do this. Looked at the daily quest to begin with, and then play, because seems to me like I've gotten daily quests twice in less than 2 hours. Normal summoning, special summoning, those clearly are daily quests I should have gotten done. Whatever, we'll leave it at that. So the San Diego Comic-Con is happening, and if you even if you were one of the people that would tend to follow it, this year in particular you're probably not seeing a lot of coverage for it, and that is in part because San Diego Comic-Con is mostly turned into announcements and promotions for movies, and with the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild of America on strike, they are telling people who are in the unions, or even potentially hope at some point in the future of the unions, to not promote movies, works, things like that, and to not try to seek out waivers to promote movies. The messaging is fairly muddled and confused, but the safe thing to do if you ever want to be in the Screen Actors Guild or the Writers Guild of America, which does include most people who would run a website news thing, is to just not really promote anything at all. That being said, one of the YouTubers that talks about comic books obviously is still talking about comic books, because their channel dies otherwise. If they don't talk about comic books, but they're trying their best to maybe talk about old comic books, or old movies and not promote anything new. Part of the problem, I think, with these kinds of strikes is when you do get into that mushy middle. The purpose of a strike is to make it painful and make the industry suffer and lose money. That's just how it has to be. So when you're saying, well, we don't want them to lose too much money because then they're going to try and use that as a negotiation tactic, you're creating a false narrative there that says you're actually assuming that the production companies of movies and TV are negotiating in good faith and wouldn't make false, ridiculous claims and negotiation tactics in the first place. And all you have to do is look at like Hollywood accounting to know that's not the case. The movie, TV, music industry, Hollywood in general, as it's known, has been acting in bad faith for decades and decades and screwing over people and lying. So yeah, throw that out the window. If I was in charge of the Screen Actors Guild union or the WGA's union, if I was in charge of the strike, I'd say absolutely hardline stance. We need solidarity, and we will be taking names of anybody who scabs, and we consider even a person who runs a website promoting or talking about a movie to be a scab. That being said, you can see there's still talk about the Barbie movie and Oppenheimer becoming this, what is being assumed to be a natural meme, as far as both of them coming out and you having to pick which one you're going to watch. Oppenheimer is 3 hours long, so you really do have to pick, or buying tickets for both. Larry Herb there being part of that meme, and you could take that as potentially him promoting those movies, and you could take that as him potentially being a scab and anti-union, but he is management, so you pretty much should assume he's anti-union, and he's management at Microsoft, which is provably anti-union. So yeah, that's not super surprising. I imagine a lot of people probably are going to meme about Barbie and Oppenheimer and not even really think about how that potentially is a decision and an endorsement for the movie and production companies, and a non-endorsement for the strike and the picket line. Noticeably, though, even more people will go and watch Barbie or Oppenheimer, without realizing that that is also a lack of solidarity. Even if you never are going to be an actor or writer or work in Hollywood in any ways, you are still crossing a virtual picket line and giving money to a company that's being struck against, which, if unionization, solidarity, and strikes are going to work in the future, the end user really needs to be more involved. And that is more of the mushy middle here, in that I don't think the Screen Actors Guild or WGA have said to the public, don't go watch Barbie, don't go watch Oppenheimer, let those movies fail horribly. If anything, I could see Oppenheimer failing horribly anyways, and people in them losing money, and potentially the strike being timed fairly well for a summer slump of bad movies. I could also see the Barbie movie failing just in general, because they've done a real poor job of promoting to me whether or not it's a kid's movie or an adult movie. And if it's an adult movie, why would I want to watch it as an adult person, as particularly an adult male, instead of, but even an adult female that played with Barbies as a kid, I'm questioning whether they really would want to watch the Barbie movie now. Let's see. Speaking of another shutdown, it's not a game I ever played, but Bandai Namco's Gundam Evolution is going to be shut down in November. Is 1 year of anniversary. Which, yeah. Bandai Namco has put out, I think, several Gundam games, and I don't think any of them particularly sell well enough. Part of the problem, certainly, there is Mobile Suit Gundam is only going to really be popular in Japan, and I don't know if it's really even that popular in Japan these days. I don't think that there's been a new Gundam anime out in several years, and the hard sci-fi or even sci-fi mech genre in anime has been dead for decades in favor of other things. Yeah, Code Geass might be the last mech show that was really, really popular in the West outside of a Gundam. There have been a couple other Gundam things, but I don't think they caught on at all. Dolphin has abandoned its efforts to bring the emulator to Steam. And then they're taking time to clarify the entire situation surrounding its DMCA takedown. Once again, because it definitely felt like that story was really misreported. Part of this certainly comes down to the fact, and perhaps this is not something I had really realized or recognized, is that even though Nintendo doesn't have any games on PC or Steam, Nintendo is still more valuable to Valve than the Dolphin emulator is, because Valve has Portal on the Switch, and Portal 1, Portal 2 at least. I don't think Valve has any other software on the Switch. I don't think there's any like Half-Life games or Team Fortress games on the Switch. But at the very least, when you just look at the dollars and cents of it, Valve has made money by putting Portal on the Switch, whereas they won't make any money by having a free emulator. But yeah. Dolphin was quick to clarify that Nintendo didn't file the original takedown as it's initially believed. It was revealed that Valve's legal team contacted Nintendo, after which a lawyer from Nintendo of America asked Valve to delist the product. So, no DMCA seems to have ever been filed. The only way to avoid delisting, according to the blog, was to come to an agreement with the Japanese developer, but Dolphin acknowledged Nintendo's often litigious view on emulation and considered Valve's requirement for us to get approval from Nintendo for a Steam release to be impossible. Considering the strong legal wording at the start of the document and the citation of DMCA law, we took the letter very seriously, wrote Dolphin. It added to its original statement, post-takedown was fairly frantic, and as we understood it at the time, which turned out to only fuel the fires of speculation. Yeah, and then Dolphin's trying to smooth things over here in a statement. The talk of the de-encryption key being the problem, I don't think is touched upon particularly well here. Only an incredibly tiny portion of our code actually related to circumvention, wrote Dolphin, although under the DMCA, any circumvention, even admitting circumvention, is disallowed. The emulator is designed to recreate the GameCube and Wii hardware as software. GameCube games aren't actually encrypted at all, and Dolphin can also play homebrew and is used in the development of game mods. So they're skipping over the fact that Wii games are encrypted. Yeah. And so that's the end of that story, which, if anything, it's nice to get the ending to stories at all, but it's not the ending anybody wanted to really hear. The Game Awards retweeted this, that the Borderlands movie has been dated for August 9th of 2024. Here's a different picture. In theaters August 9th, 2024. It is just a splatter of color, and we still have yet to see anything other than a silhouette of Borderlands. We do have the names of the main characters. You have Cate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, Arena Greenblatt, Florian Martineau, and Jamie Lee Curtis. But they're not even really telling you what characters they're playing in this. Borderlands and 2K are also promoting it. So, scabs all of them, I guess. I mean, it's not surprising that the Game Awards... well, it's a little surprising the Game Awards would promote it in the middle of the strike. But it's not surprising that Borderlands would promote their own Borderlands movie as a management company, or 2K would promote their own movie as a management production company. I guess the Game Awards perhaps are going to get some kind of black mark on their name for promoting the Borderlands movie. Notably, I don't know if the Borderlands film needed to announce a date or make any announcement, and I would have suspected smarter people would have potentially waited till the strike was over, or hoped that the strike would end quickly to make an announcement, particularly one this far into the future. Like, August 9th, 2024 could easily be changed if there's some competition of another movie coming out during that time. But they also could have easily just been announced a month from now, 2 months from now. Like, you're announcing it a year in advance. And it would be surprising if we're still in a strike a year from now, but it's possible. The Resident Evil 4 remake, according to Gametsu, has shambled to 5 million copies sold. I also heard a rumor, and I'll just leave it at a rumor, that Resident Evil 9 is in development and going to be released in the next year or two. Which, okay, I mean, at a certain point you have to release a Resident Evil 9, and that certainly would buy them some time to think about whether they want to make a Resident Evil 5 remake, or whether they want to perhaps just make some more spin-off Resident Evil game remakes, or just focus on making newer Resident Evil games. Make 9, then a year later release 10, something like that. And then this was kind of an older story where the UK regulator and Microsoft have given extra time to resolve the Activision deal. Day to day, what is being promoted at the top of Steam doesn't particularly change that much. Battlebit Remastered, Elden Ring, things like that more than likely are going to stay the same forever. Yeah. The only reason I guess you might promote the movie is to promote the sale of Borderlands games, but if anything, it would almost certainly be backwards. You'd promote the sale of video games to promote the movie, or make the sale of Borderlands games to promote the movie. A FIFA eWorld Cup apparently ended in penalty controversy as players' inputs are shown on big screen. the winner of the event took home a 300,000 prize. I saw another story for an esports group that was going to take a vote as to whether or not they just disband the esports group, and as part of disbanding the esports group, each team would get a kind of golden parachute of a lot of money to a regular person, perhaps not a lot of money as far as prize money for esports teams, and inherently that one-time payment is in replacement of a hope for the, I believe it was an Overwatch esports group, esports league. Yeah. Inherently, if Overwatch 2 or whatever game they were playing was more popular, they would have more tournaments and they'd have more prizes. Let's see, the next free Epic games have been revealed. Homeworld Remastered Collection and Severed Steel will replace Elder Scrolls Online and Murder by Numbers, which feels like these Epic games are coming a little bit faster, but they really aren't. It's just one a week, pretty much, or one or two. Blizzard is going to address fan feedback following backlash on the latest Diablo 4 patch. Studio to discuss controversial changes during the live stream on Friday. I guess we'll see on Monday what they talked about. Overall, though, I'm seeing negativity online around Diablo 4, but I'm not sure that that's really killing the numbers of people playing it. It may very well be a case that Diablo 4, much like Diablo 3, is a game that people love to play and love to hate at the same time. Let's see. We already talked about the Dolphin emulator not coming to Steam. Weirdly, RetroArch is on Steam, and I'm fairly certain that the cores to run NES games are on Steam. So, yeah. At some point, there may be another core that is created for RetroArch that plays GameCube and Wii games, and Dolphin, as the emulator of choice for GameCube and Wii games, will stop being the emulator of choice. The second trailer for the Gran Turismo movie has been revealed. Check that out at Video Games Chronicles if you want to see that. Don't care about their podcast. FTC did, from what I saw, pause their progress. Although I'm not sure if it really is in favor of settlement talks as much as it is just in favor of focusing in on their appeal first, or just saving the taxpayer money. Apparently user-created routes are coming to Pokemon Go. And then the legendary Pokemon Zygarde will debut as part of the event. It definitely feels like there's a danger in allowing users to create their own routes, because that feels like then you're going to have people not paying attention playing Pokemon Go as you walk them into a dark alley to mug them. And I don't know what you could really do to prevent somebody somewhere from doing that and getting a pretty bad amount of backlash because of it. Sony reveals a Spider-Man 2 PS5 console and controller alongside a new trailer. Check out that trailer on Video Games Chronicles if you care. A Roblox data leak exposes sensitive user information of about 4,000 developers. Roblox says it's offering identity protection support to seriously affected individuals. EA Sports renews its Premier League partnership, granting access to every club, player, and more. The publisher's first game without FIFA licenses releases this year. So, Premier League they have access to, but not the FIFA group, which I assume the Premier League is different than the FIFA group. and I think FIFA is probably more followed, slightly more followed. I wouldn't say the Premier League is particularly terrible, though. And then I guess the question I would have to ask, and really don't care to know the answer, is are there players and likenesses of football players that are in the Premier League and in FIFA, or do you have to be on a team specifically that's in the Premier League or FIFA, but not both? And do they trade characters or players much? I imagine you're on a specific team that is in the Premier League, and Premier League people never play against FIFA people. And that there won't be a case where potentially FIFA owns the likenesses of players, but also FIFA owns the likenesses of players. Maybe the players should probably own their own likenesses, but yeah, that's probably not the case. Apparently, Shigeru Miyamoto explains why he thinks Pikmin games haven't exploded. The Nintendo designer thinks challenging controls and depth of gameplay have put some players off. Which, yeah, okay, I can see that. It definitely highlights how Shigeru Miyamoto and Nintendo thinks from the perspective of, we want to make something that is super kid-friendly and super accessible, and Pikmin is a tighter controlled game and has more challenge than your average Nintendo game. That's why when you see like Super Mario Odyssey, the challenges to get a specific moon are very simplistic and short, and yeah, you see that in pretty much all their games. The Kirby and New World game, same issue too, where they are getting into simplistic gameplay in the Kirby Forgotten World game. You're going from point A to point B. At the end of it, you might have a boss fight. There's not a lot of side paths. There's not a lot of side things to interact with. The actual actions Kirby can do, as far as swallowing things, are actually very limited. I think it probably is also a case that Pikmin visually needed to be smaller, and as they were smaller, they're just not that iconic, and they're not very relatable because they don't really look like a human being in any way. Like, clearly this game is trying to avoid being a military looking strategy game, like chain of command type game, but that's what it is really. It's a real-time strategy game where you have your troops in Pikmin and you're sending them against an enemy or a tank. So any other developer trying to not be kid friendly would have had a big flame-throwing tank of some sort, and you would have had some human-looking military troops, and you would have had a general telling them what to do as a real-time strategy. And to desperately avoid doing all of that, they've come up with the animal and the Pikmin visual concept and the more colorful heads-up display and interfaces. I'm running out of water here. My throat's drying out quite a bit. Yeah, I expect I'm gonna end up getting sick sometime in the next few days. Apparently, it looks like High on Life is coming to PlayStation consoles. The unannounced version of the game has been spotted in the PlayStation backend, according to Video Games Chronicles. We talked about Hogwarts Legacy. We talked about Ubisoft. I'm not sure I really agree with Ubisoft. Then these might be older stories. Witcher 3's latest patch, adding the Netflix series content, or content inspired by the Netflix series. Diablo 4 has reached 10 million players in June, driving a record quarter for Blizzard. Blizzard games are coming to Steam starting in August with Overwatch 2, which I'm not sure that they've actually confirmed that all the Blizzard games are coming to Steam. I wouldn't be surprised if this is mostly just trying to get people to play Overwatch 2, and maybe they'll throw us a bone and give us like Hearthstone or Heroes of the Storm, but I wouldn't be surprised if things like Overwatch 1 never come over, or Diablo 4 never comes over. Not sure if there's any other Blizzard games that you really would miss until you start getting into StarCraft, Warcraft, older games, things like that. That's really where I would want to do this. Give me StarCraft, Warcraft, old games. Give me Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 on Steam. Insomniac has offered a new look at Spider-Man 2's Venom. Sony has launched a PlayStation Store summer sale. Resident Evil 4 has hit 5 million sales faster than any series entry since 2009. The last title to reach this milestone more quickly was Resident Evil 5, which, if anything, feels like you're going backwards when you say that. But I think that also highlights that even though reception may have been a little rough for Resident Evil 5 compared to 4 in particular, hype around 5 was at the premium because people had just played the original version of Resident Evil 4 and they had really enjoyed it. So it really was their ball to drop, and they did drop it somewhat, but I really wouldn't call Resident Evil 5 a terrible game or anything. It will be very interesting to see if they ever do make a Resident Evil 5 remake and what they actually improve or change on it. That being said, even some of the changes that they've done for Resident Evil 4 modernizes the game in ways that make it visually look unlike its original game. Of course, I haven't actually played the remake myself, so that would be the next move. Apparently a new King Kong game has been leaked by Amazon. Update Skull Island Rise of Kong is officially coming to PC and consoles this year. King Kong as a character has been woefully underused. That being said, I don't expect that you can make that good of a King Kong game. If you're playing as King Kong, if you're playing as the monsters King Kong is fighting, either way, you're probably just making a fighting game. It looks like it's maybe an action, maybe boss rush game, or an action RPG game. Maybe there aren't any real level up role-playing elements. Maybe it's more platforming. We saw a little bit of climbing there. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a shorter game. And yeah, is this being developed by an Amazon company? No, it's just was leaked by Amazon.com, an Amazon Spanish website. It's a third-person action-adventure game to avenge your death of your parents at the hands of the ultimate alpha predator, Gaw. According to Wikizilla, Gaw is the title that refers to the leader of the Death Runners, a fictional species of dromaeosaurid dinosaurs native to Skull Island. So it's kind of a prequel. I'd be very interested in figuring out what the company is that's working on this. Looking at the screenshot and the graphics, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a very short, very rough attempt at a tie-in game, movie license game of old. Let's see, the latest PS4 and PS5 updates improve system performance, quote unquote. New firmware updates are available now to download. I guess there's not much more to know. And at a certain point, is that even really news? That there are new updates available. Activision Blizzard has cut its esports staff amid uncertain future of the Overwatch League. About 50 employees reportedly lost their jobs out of the blue this week. This is the league, almost certainly, that I had heard about. If the teams do not vote to continue under the updated operating agreement, a termination fee of $6 million will be payable to each participating team entry, total fee of approximately $114 million. So, yeah. That is the question here as far as will these esports teams vote to stay in this Overwatch League or not. We are seeing the back end of all the hype around esports being a big thing and it being potentially a new sports venue, sports career for a new generation. All of that seemed unlikely to really happen to me, even when it was being promoted, and felt like it was being hyped up by moneyed interests. So I'm not surprised to see esports is back to a lower level. It's not dead by any means. There will always be a few games that work as esports, but it's never going to be a major factor in video games, and people trying to make esports games are highly unlikely to succeed. In that case, Overwatch, most notably, was created to try to be an esports game, and now it has had several struggles and isn't really popular, whereas Dota is still about the only one that would make some sense. Notably too, you have the pandemic affecting this, in that we are in a post-pandemic world, and I think hopefully people will learn that being in these massive crowds is not potentially healthy, even if there is no current threat of sickness or disease. Just being in big groups when the next disease gets announced can be a real risk. Moving on to Gamatsu. Remnant 2 Surviving the Post-Apocalypse trailer is available if you want to check that out on Gamatsu. Blizzard Entertainment games coming to Steam, starting with Overwatch 2 on August 10th. Do we have a Steam link for it yet? Nope. Retro's Revengers is coming to the West on August 24th for Switch and PC. Let's see if we have that on the follow list. Nope. Not 100% sure that this is the kind of game I'd want to play, but whatever. Retro Mystery Club Volume 1, the Izeshima case, is coming to the West August 24th for Switch and PC. Well, put this on the fault list, although it's highly unlikely I really would play this. I would like to see if somehow there is some major fan appreciation for that game coming to the West. Momotaro Dentetsu Showa Heisei Rawa Motaibin. Shipments and digital sales are up to 4 million. I don't believe this game ever came to the West. Gundam Evolution ending service. Resident Evil 4 shipments and digital sales topping 5 million. Again, shipments and digital sales not really being the exact comparisons, one-to-one comparison, but that is all that Capcom is using these days, is the shipments of physical discs and the digital sales combined. And that's fairly standard. Ace Angler Fishing Spirits Summer Update is now available. It adds famous fish from 11 real-life aquariums. This was a game that I think kind of caught my attention as a fishing game. It may be a Switch exclusive, though, and it may be a Japanese exclusive. Yeah. There's a whole gadget you can wrap around your Joy-Con. Bandai Namco has announced its Gamescom lineup. Thrilling surprises are teased. Armored Core, Rydo vs. Burrito, Park Beyond, Sandland, Tekken 8, and more. Atlas Fallen combat trailer is available on Gametsu if you want to check that out. The Famitsu sales for the 10th to the 16th have been updated. Let's see. The Nintendo Switch version of Atelier Marie Remake taking the second spot, which potentially knocks down Final Fantasy XVI. Toho New World taking the 6th spot. And then our next PlayStation 5 game is Atelier Marie Remake taking the 9th spot compared to the Switch version, which took the 2nd spot. Bloodstained Curse of the Moon for Nintendo Switch has taken the 12th spot. I feel like that's an old game, but maybe it just got released in Japan for the Switch. And then Exoprimal taking the 16th spot, and then Atelier for PS4 taking the 18th spot. Hardware sales still going fairly well for the PlayStation 5, though, and Xbox still doing better than I've seen in previous years as far as sales. Tekken 8 Claudio Serafino gameplay trailer is available if you want to check that out on Gametsu. We may be getting a lot of Tekken 8 advertisements. The Legend of Nayuta Boundless Trails characters and gameplay trailer is available if you want to watch that. A lot of trailers without Steam links. Parasol Stars, the story of Bubble Bobble 3, is coming to the PS5, PS4, Xbox One Series, Switch in late 2023. This looks like a fairly old game being re-released. Yeah. Noticeably not for PC though. An open world culinary adventure game called Fruit Buzz has been announced for consoles and PC. Let's see what that looks like on Steam. I'm very consistently ending up having to go to the bathroom in the middle of these streams. And I really have no way of fixing that. Not that anything I've thought of. Armored Core 6 Fires of the Rubicon has a story trailer. If you want to check that out. Let's see. This one is not on my follow list, so I'll make a YouTube short on it. Yeah, somehow Oxenfree 2 has gotten like 3 YouTube shorts on my channel and gotten fairly good views from those YouTube shorts, or arguably maybe not that many views. I may very well be confusing the fact that some of these YouTube shorts have gotten 50 views as a good thing, but in reality, that might be insignificantly small for shorts, and it may just reflect how poor my channel is really does overall. Rain World developer Video Cult announces a vehicle combat racing game called Airframe Ultra for PC. Honestly, my YouTube channel has done poor enough that if I could think of something else to do that would financially support me more, I definitely would at this point take that opportunity. And then just play video games in my free time. That being said, how much free time does anybody have when they're off working a different job of any size or type? And then, very notably, a lot of people are working very low paying jobs, and those low paying jobs are taking up way too much of their time and paying so little that you don't have free time to do anything, let alone play video games. A game called Wayfinder launches in early access on August 15th. Which, yeah. It doesn't particularly look like anything that interests me. Let's see, Marvel Spider-Man's 2 story trailer, limited edition PS5 bundle, and DualSense wireless controller announced. I heard someone talking about the difference between the feel of the DualSense controller versus the DualShock controller, and that one was the older one, which was probably the DualShock, was way worse as far as just the hand feel. Which, that's good to hear, certainly, as somebody who doesn't play with those kinds of controllers. That being said, I don't really see a reason why I'd ever switch from an Xbox controller when playing on PC to a PlayStation controller, which would just have less connectivity support. Anonymous Code here, according to Gamatsu, has a systems trailer, if you want to check that out. White Album Memories Like Falling Snow for PC launches August 4th worldwide. It's a core classic visual novel from Aquaplus. Which, yeah, it's already on the fall list. Let's see. Tingo Project teases a Shadow of Ninja remake announcement. You see these two characters hanging from ropes, it looks like. Their wrists aren't bound, so it's not like they're tied up hanging. Seems like they weirdly are just sliding down a rope or climbing up a rope while facing away from the rope, which is an odd way to do that. As for what this game actually is, I have no idea. Looks like it's based off of a very old game, though. Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name has further details for the story, characters, and organizations, if you want to check that out on Gamatsu. Otherwise, that's going to be it for the Gamatsu articles, so we'll go to the game developer articles, which we'll probably go through fairly quickly. Overwatch 2 is coming to the Steam in August. We talked about this. We see. Roblox thinks subscriptions could help developers foster recurring economic relationships. You know what? Now is as good of the time as any to run to the bathroom, and yeah, I'm not gonna comfortably be able to talk if I don't. So I'm going to pause the recording and then start to do a live like I did before, and then I'll come back in like 20 minutes. Okay, I'm back now. So, yeah. Let's see, get my mouse pad in the right place. So yeah, GameDeveloper.com article. Roblox thinks subscriptions could help devs foster recurring economic relationships, which is just to say that the idea of subscriptions would be like a Patreon built into Roblox, where people would potentially support creators. The problem with all of these new ways to potentially monetize your creations is that there's not a single new idea that that really works towards the thought of actual increase in money of other people. So the question never really comes down to how are the Roblox players going to have more money so that they could support developers in making these Roblox sub games. We need a new, better phrase for that. I also wanted to point out here, this is something I noticed, is that we're starting to see the backgrounds take on a little bit more detail in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. Here we have some kind of dragon being summoned out on the Duel Live. This is wall art that you select, but there's nothing here on missions. There's nothing here on information. There's nothing here in the gift box. There's nothing under friends. So it is just under Duel Live that they are cycling in these grayed out versions of characters, which does give you maybe a hint at what they're thinking as far as potentially improving their interface. When they're potentially going to recognize that there are some empty spots where something could be shown and fill in those empty spots with more humanoid relatable characters, whereas up until this point Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel has been noticeably devoid of any interest of highlighting any character or making any character particularly that special. You do have a sub-selection of characters that they highlight as far as accessories and things like that, but that's about as far as it goes. Card backs and wall art. There is no mascot character, as it were, for Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, or any narrative story for a Master Duel, other than the solo missions, which still very much seem like they are set around individualized stories that don't have too much of a connecting arc. I wonder what the trash can would do here. I'm afraid to click it. But yeah. Obviously there is filters that have been added to this screen. Anyways, let's get back to the news. I want to make this stream go even longer. I can already tell today, though I'm not really going to be in the mood to do any more content creation. Yeah. and that's probably going to follow around the entire weekend. Dolphin abandons efforts to bring emulator to Steam, we talked about. Bandai Namco shutting down Gundam Evolution, we talked about. Resident Evil 4 Remake selling 5 million copies. GGWP is giving developers free access to AI moderation platform. Developers now have free and full access to moderation platforms to better curb player toxicity. What is GGWP, though? Is the question. Yeah. I feel like almost certainly with all this AI type talk, there's some point, if not already, we've crossed the line where everything you type in as a prompt to a AI algorithm is going to be fed back into the AI algorithm to make it potentially better. I'm not sure if that's really what's going to happen, but all of a sudden, if AI Google searches just became the default, and then Google was getting some larger benefit from every prompt you type in, we may be giving away a lot more than we think as far as private information or just valuable information. Although at the moment, I will say most AI prompts seem to be a few sentences, maybe a paragraph or two of description of what you want. And then the AI algorithms spit out a lot more sentences and a lot more information that's probably a lot more valuable. But we may start to see the tables turn at that point, and you may say, start to search what's 1 plus 1, and the AI will say 2, and then it will be more valuable to Google to know how many people are searching what's 1 plus 1 than it is for them to respond with a simple calculator response of 2. Although one would also hope that perhaps you tokenize the answer to that and you're not running the math every single time, since math doesn't change. We already talked about the FTC suspending its administrative challenge to the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal. And then that brings us to the fall list cleanup, which did actually run today. So, we have Horror Adventure Zombie Edition VR from April 12th, which needs more time. We have an adult game here, HOROS Monster Slayer and Lover of Many, from June of 2023. I am trying to see how positively received this is. It's got 28 positive reviews. So, should I put something like this on the wish list? And some of this is definitely going to come down to my mood at the time. But yeah. Game is mixed with visual novel spiced up with RPG elements. This doesn't look bad, Horos, H-O-R-O-S, but not really good enough to justify all the hassle, really, of trying to go through it. It is on sale at the moment for $9.35, and it's English only. One of the concerns, certainly too, as far as adult games, is that the 3D CGI in an adult game like that would potentially just be still 3D CGI images and not animated, which makes for a very different experience. This Horizon Beyond is very positively reviewed, but it does require VR. At a certain level, maybe it would make some sense to just add something that is free to the library, even if it is in VR. But It also makes a lot of sense to not add things to the library. Ideally, I'd like them to get away from just one fall list and be able to pull down a second fall list, particularly a PC, a Mac, a Steam Deck, and a VR fall list would be very helpful. Or even better, just have several fall lists and you can have multiple creations that way. Well, I guess I spoke a little preemptively when I said the fall list worked. It seems like it kind of worked, but I'm having to reload some pages, which again maybe means that the clock was messed up. Hardcore side-scrolling shooter in a post-apocalypse. Well, it doesn't look terrible as a game, and it does pass the 30 reviews. It is at 73% positivity, though. It's barely at the mostly positive level, but you know what? No, I guess I'll put it on the wish list and then see what happens there. This game, Hoppy, needs more time. We are doing fall list cleanup a lot faster than I thought I was going to. This potentially needs more time too, which, if anything, that's probably a good thing. But yeah. This Hope's Inn doesn't look like anything. Yeah, by potentially cleaning up the fall list fairly quickly means we'll start looking at games more often and start having to make the tougher decisions more often. There's still a ton of new games that get added to the fall list too, so increasingly we'll run into games that have only been listed for a month or so, and they really haven't been given enough time to get 30 reviews. As far as Hop Step Sing VR Live, I think we can probably say no to any VR anime girl dancing singing game. Although I don't think this really is a singing or dancing game in the sense that you sing or dance. It seems like it's more just a watch the other people sing and dance. And something from 2022 is probably not that relevant. Here we have Hooked on You as a dating simulator with monsters. It is very positive, so we'll say yes to that. If anything, there might be a very good argument to playing one of these weird games as a comparison to like Honey Pop. That being said, I think these are the killers from Dead by Daylight. So you're dating the killers characters from Dead by Daylight, which would mean I would have to probably find a justification to play Dead by Daylight to really play this, but I'll deal with that decision later. It is obviously very positive. Hook 2 looks like a very positive minimalistic puzzle game, so we can put that on the wish list. And that's gonna leave me with just Honey, I joined a cult. Which seems like really it's just a society simulator, like the prison simulator games, just with cult themes to it. Most recently, it's mixed reviewed. Overall, it's 78% positive. So let's see if we can see the negative reviews of, let's see, negative reviews of a specific range. Which shows just recent. Okay. Let's draw a box there. I wanted to like this game, just couldn't get into it. It's basically Prison Architect clone with even less flavor. The different rooms and modules have basically no meaning except for as automatic influence and money generators. The pace is very slow and everything feels very bland and uninteresting. I really wanted to like this game, but the truth is it's just boring. It's not engaging. 2 out of 5. Seems like a mobile game, repetitive and micromanaging. Which, at a certain level, that's what these kinds of games are. But obviously, they failed to amass enough of a following for people to overlook these slow processes here. And in all fairness, you probably could make a game that was fast and was one of these wait for resources to charge games. There's a lot of trailers here. But at a certain point, why are you making a wait for resources game if you're not trying to stretch out the time? And if anything, it highlights how in modern days there's just not really a reason to make a game to stretch out the time. And then we'll look at all games on Steam. All new games on Steam. And then we'll be done for today. Solar System for Kids. Might be something educational, so I'll give that a follow. Should I make a YouTube short on it? I guess yes. A game called Fung. F-U-N-G. I don't think there's enough visual polish here for what this game seems like it is. You're playing as like this fungus slime mold character, and yeah, the weirdness in the art style I don't think helps playing as that kind of game. So I'm gonna be picky and say no to that. Starlight Defenders of Justice Ultimate HD. It's already on the fall list and is not visually interesting enough to make another YouTube short on. Paint by Pixel. Fair enough to make a YouTube short on that. Way Times looks like it's a Survivors clone or top-down twin-stick shooter game. Fallen looks like it's a platforming game or top-down game of some sort. Whatever, it doesn't look interesting. Again, yeah, I just don't feel like I'm in the best of moods to be looking at these games, so I'm going to be fairly cruel. Blazing Angel Missile Tier. This is probably not anything. Let's see if there's any adult warning content. Yeah. I'll give it a chance though. Koizen, Opposite Colors. Seems like it's some kind of puzzle game. Peasant Kingdom. I'll say no to that. obviously there needs to be some level of curation here. It doesn't make a lot of sense for me to try and make YouTube shorts around every single bad game. I guess maybe if there was a point where YouTube shorts, regardless of quality, got me a decent amount of views, that throwing in bad games might make some sense at that point, and then that would save me a lot of frustration if I just made a YouTube short on every single game. That being said, something like the mini deaths of Lily Kosin here is probably not YouTube family friendly enough with the second screenshot to justify making a short around it. And otherwise it looks like it is just a simplistic visual novel that's not drawn particularly outstanding. It's average. But I will put it on the fall list and give it see if people like it. Pixel World, obviously, is a no. Hurricane Chase. This, of course, would be the problem of no curation, is that we'd have games like Pixel World and Hurricane Chase and another generic space shooter potentially flooding an entire day of YouTube shorts. Here we have a game that says it has sexual content and nudity. Interesting. Sexually suggestive content is what it says. This definitely feels like one of those RPG Maker games that would have more of a nudity patch at some point. But it is just, once again, an RPG Maker like game, and in this case 4:3 resolution, so unless this was a very old game that had a lot of relevance, I have to say no about it. And if it did have relevance, I'd have to recognize it had relevance. Pulse Codex EP. Looks like it may be a very minimalistic puzzle game, or it might just be a connection of fairly nonsense stuff. Oh, again, give this a follow, but I'm not going to make a short on it. Here we have Blood Decay with one D between the two. So either Blue Decay or Blood EK. Weirdly, it's already mixed as a game. It actually looks somewhat interesting. Here we have Contraptions 3, which I'm a little surprised there aren't more games like this. Obviously, this is a mobile port of an amazing Contraptions type of game, but whatever. I'll give it a short to see how that works. Next, we have our first adult game, and we have up until this point been kind of lackluster in the 2D anime adult games. This game, Hentai Bella, is one red-headed 2D anime lady with big boobs and big butt in a very simplistic slide puzzle game, with all the slide puzzles being very vertical, so I assume it's a mobile game. It's selling for 69 cents. It says it supports 29 languages, which I assume means that there's really no real text in it. So that is a simplistic 2D adult game, but it is at least a 2D colorful style adult game. Forge Industry looks like nothing. Our next adult game is also 2D, Undying Yield Succubus Princess of Arrogance, and it looks like it is an RPG Maker game with the adult patch already enabled. So the screenshots are showing actual interaction and nudity. This one is being sold for $8.19 and supports English, Japanese, and Chinese. But it is pretty boilerplate as far as just being one of those RPG games. Yeah, and there's only one succubus older character that seems to be involved with big boobs, big hips, and definitely not going for the shorter, younger looking style. It is still kind of crazy in my mind, though, that everything goes on Steam as far as adult content as long as it's not the more kawaii or moe art styles where the characters are anatomically incorrect and shorter, have bigger heads, and often are perceived as younger looking because of such. But then you also have like non-sexual situations where a character might actually be underage and they're just public bathing in Japan, which is a very natural thing to happen in Japan. And yet that being mentioned or depicted crosses a line in the censors' minds at Valve. Whereas if you look at something like Facebook, you can straight up, Facebook has been fairly willing to have some weird rules as far as whether or not you can show naked breast as long as you have a baby somewhat near your naked breast and you're pretending like that baby is about to breastfeed. Which, yeah, that seems weird, really, that you would have to find a baby, hold the baby near you so you can show off a naked breast, versus just saying, hey, here's a naked breast. Let me just show it off because I want to show it off. Cubic Survivor here is nothing. That is the problem, of course, with censorship in general, is that either you have full forbidding censorship, which is way too much for most people's taste, even people who are pro-censorship, or you start to have mushy middle rules that people dance around, and often the effect of dancing around this censorship is worse than just being honest and depicting things in an honest way. It's the two-piece bikini versus just being topless or bottomless at a nude beach problem. If you are a nudist, wearing a two-piece bikini is actually adding ornaments and ornamentation to your body and making it more stand out more visually compared to just walking around naked. You also run into the problem where if somebody's wearing an outfit that covers about as much or even slightly more than a two-piece bikini, it can be so ornamental and unique visually that it's more titillating than just seeing somebody in a standard two-piece bikini and seeing more skin. Skin inherently is not really that attractive. It's the idea of forbidden fruit of seeing skin you're not supposed to see that's attractive. If you showed me a 1 square inch piece of somebody's skin, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you whether it was like from a shoulder or back, a stomach, or wherever, unless it had some specific visual element to it to give me more details. This game, Planet Blight, looks like nothing. Stupid camera. Looks like nothing. Here we have what looks like an adult game, but it's not in the adult section. It says it has strong language, mild sexual content, suicide, self-harm, and may not be appropriate for minors. Yeah, the screenshots though here don't seem to really show much. Needy Princess Nerd Club. I guess I'll put it on the follow list, and then let's see. They're talking about the Japanese idea of Lolita fashion, which I guess that's what you would call this, which it really has nothing to do with the way Lolita as a character is described. Lolita is not even really the name of the character of the person in the Lolita book. Lolita is a made-up name by the author of the book, or the fictionalized author of the book. And inherently people don't get the idea around Lolita as a book from what I've heard. Should I make a YouTube short around this though? I'm going to do an experiment and say yes. I've watched the trailer and made sure it's YouTube family friendly and as best as I can, and the screenshots look interesting, family friendly enough. Pick a pocket. But yeah, the point of Lolita as a book is supposed to be that the fictionalized author of the book is the bad guy of the story, trying to write his confession in a way to make him look like the good guy of the story. And you're not supposed to side with him. You're supposed to recognize that you have a very unreliable narrator who's telling you about his delusions and fantasies. I guess we'll make a YouTube short for Pick a Pocket. Right. Let's see, this next game only is in Japanese and Chinese, but we may show off what it looks like as long as it's YouTube family friendly. Speaking of loopholes, this game might also be one that is getting allowed on Steam by using the loophole of not having English language support. And perhaps there is a loophole here where if you release your game in Japanese and Chinese, and that it will only be viewed is a transformation sequence for a Moe character considered unacceptable. Apparently it is allowed on Steam, if assuming any of this that I'm seeing on this trailer is allowed by Steam's inconsistent censorship. So yeah, let me just show. So you got a glowing light transformation sequence here, although the outfit that it transforms into is fairly revealing, having just a real gun instead, or a magical weapon that looks like a gun. But yeah, all these characters are in the Moe side, I would say, more than even the kawaii side of animation, in that they are anthropomorphically, anatomically incorrect and have big heads and tend to be shorter. Although this very well may be a mother character that is supposed to be in their 30s or 40s, and compared to, say, this character here, it's right on the line, I would say, between Moe and kawaii, because they're still fairly tall. But then you have this character certainly seeming younger. A lot of their school uniforms could potentially give you a hint as to how old they're supposed to be. If they're working in cafes, for instance, that also implies late high school, early college. But yeah. Fortunately, I can't really say the name of this game. But I can say it's $27.64, and maybe this will be the way we start to see more games like this come to Steam. Arguably, potentially in heavily censored forms, though. Too. I don't read Japanese, so I couldn't possibly tell you how what this is saying as far as describing the characters, though. So no real information there. That's why it's not really worth it usually to bother with this. Breach in space. Looks like nothing. Here we have what looks like another Chinese game. It's in the adult section. It's called Bondage Play. Looks like the Chinese 3D models. Then in a pair of handcuffs. And that seems to be about it. Stockings and foot fetishes being played too. One of the screenshots. And notably, I don't even really have to blur this, because the screenshots are showing you absolutely nothing at all. But yeah, $4.99 English and Chinese. They're saying it's a visual novel game in the adult section. Yep. And I really can't even count this as an adult game. This is Chinese people getting around their level of censorship that they feel they have to follow, even on Steam and releases worldwide, and not really providing a product that anybody cares about or could possibly care about. This game Madway, I've seen another game like this, and I wouldn't be surprised if there is really just a whole genre of games like this where it is random 3D models and things that you almost have to wonder if you would have to steal the 3D models and the physics to interact with the 3D models, because there's just so much of it that unless there's just a massive collection of Unreal or Unity items you can get for free to throw up floating into an air to make a platforming game. The thing I would say here is I'll put this on the fall list, but I'm not going to make a short around it, because the getting over it with Benet Foddy had a lot of psychological, perhaps it was just nonsense that was also being spoken every time you fell and as you were playing the game, which gave a real narrative feeling to the game, where all the getting over it with Benet Foddy clones didn't really have that kind of narrative feeling to it. So that would be my concern here, is that this is trying to be a getting over it clone without any narrative and without any real effort being put into it. And this SMB Club, as a publisher, let's see, has this other game, and that's it. Let's see. Moving on, we have something called eSheep, which looks like a desktop pet. We have Dream Ploy Well, which looks like nothing. We have Safari Pinball, which might be something, so I'll give it a follow. We have a Brewpub Simulator. which I could see that potentially being interesting, although it is running into the same problem of running a business or doing a job as a simulating game. That being said, I think there are people out there that would say, hey, owning a brew pub, which pretty much is just something you could only have in the UK, might have a general idea. I doubt you would have brew pubs, or call them brew pubs, as far as bars with serving a little bit of food. Out in the United States, you might call them just pubs, and a pub in the United States is probably not going to have the same feel or have specialty food or drink or alcohol on tap. Moving on, we have a game called Speedway Racing, which again I'll put on the fault list, but I'm not going to make a YouTube short on it because it looks too much like every other racing game, and it just doesn't have that name recognition or anything special in the screenshots that would make me think it should stand out and be promoted amongst lots of other racing games. We have Classified Death in the Alley as far as a hidden object game. That looks like nothing. Epicenter VR. Looks like nothing. Scopathesia. Looks like a dark screenshot horror game of no interest. The Trade Prince. Looks like a strategy routing game. See. Lost Forest could just be a walking simulator. It is kind of pretty though, so I'll make a YouTube short on it. Just as a potential walking simulator, the fact that it has this more colorful fantasy feel to it, that you're walking around in a fairy tale forest more than you're just walking around a post-apocalyptic realistic city or just a empty city. That does have some appeal. In a lot of ways, I would say one of the problems with a lot of walking simulators is that they are all either in small villages in the real world or small empty cities in the real world. This next adult game has some Asian writing, and then it says Residence, and it looks to me like it is a fighting game with what would be an anime style 3D models, and then when you do a hit, it looks like it throws a much better animated flat 2D picture in your face when you get a big combo. Which, yeah, it's one of these games that's combining two very different art styles. And clearly this is asset flippy. I almost kind of like the idea, though, where you're getting a Mortal Kombat whoopsie type reaction, where the game is reacting to your fights and your punch. That being said, the actual game itself, as far as a fighting game, looks like garbage, and the collection of flat 2D adult pictures are fine, but they're definitely not worth the effort of going through the fighting game. Resonance is selling for $3.59. It's English and Chinese with full Chinese audio. It says it has 5 battles, 15 storylines, 15 sex scenes, 45 sex CGs, and full Chinese voice acting. Which, yeah, that definitely does not feel like there's There's enough polish there. It's about 6 characters, it seems, that fight, but the way they're depicted here in the description is nowhere close to the 3D models. Next we have My Klutzy Cupid. It says, adult content includes a few illustrations of veiled nudity, revealing outfits and kissing. The adult relationship is not shown on screen, but they are brought up in conversations. Every character appearing is over 18 years old. It's crazy how much of these games, I think, get approved just by saying every character is over 18 years old. Of course, at some point that ruins the story writing or the intent of the writers if they have to rewrite the story to have every character 18 years old. Here's my little sister, she's 18 years old. Here's her little sister, she's also 18 years old. Here's her little sister, who's also 18 years old. That can't really happen, not unless you have twins or something like that. You can only have maybe 2 kids that were 18 years old if they both gestated for the 10 months, 9 months it takes. As far as what My Klutzy Cupid looks like, yeah, looks fine. As far as the screenshots, I guess the question would be the trailer. If I am going to approve these kinds of games to get YouTube shorts, I am going to have to click through the trailers and make sure they're YouTube family friendly. And that looks like that is, so we'll give that a follow and make a YouTube short on that. How many more games do we have to talk about today? Not that many, so we have been able to be fairly successful on staying around 3 hours this week. Obviously, though, there's some bundling going on as far as 2D adult games. We hadn't seen any throughout the entirety of this week, and now we have 4 or 5 very close to each other, if not back to back. This next one is Sexy Anime Puzzle Game, a hentai girl puzzle adventure, where they have taken 2D anime girls and chopped them up into little puzzle pieces, and they're dragging and dropping the girl to put her back together. The puzzles seem to potentially be a little bit more complicated than what you normally would see for a game like this, but I don't find it particularly that interesting looking. It's very unpolished, and it seems to me like you maybe have 10 puzzles at most. There's 10 girls, so I'd assume you get 1 puzzle per girl. It is selling for $1.79. It says it has English full audio, which I question, and then supports 23 other languages. And we'll leave that one at that. Then we have one called Delta V, Rings of Saturn. It looks like it's overwhelmingly positive. So this would be a game I would say normally I would just dismiss, but when you have that many reviews and it's overwhelmingly positive, there feels like there is something to this that I need to research later. This is $7.99. It's closed. We'll make a YouTube short on it, even though normally I would not make a YouTube short around a game that looked like this. Although inherently that is perhaps my own bias in that I'm not that interested in space games. Chester Into the Light just looks like it's a horror game. No interest. And then Underworld Adventures. Looks like nothing. Ironically, what's going to happen today, though, is that we're not going to have really any 3D CGI, more realistic art style adult games. Grime O'Clock, I don't know what it really is, but it doesn't look that good. Well, No, I take that back. I just don't know what this is, so I'm gonna put it on the follow list. It might be something, it might not. I can't tell. Trade City, I think we can dismiss. And then our last game for today is Gym Empire, which looks like a gym simulator game of no interest. And that's going to be the end of the show. Yeah. Hopefully I can have a restful weekend and maybe accomplish some things and be in slightly a better mood, and then we'll be back on Monday, hopefully. No promises, I guess, ever. That's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to support me further, there's some links down below in the description box. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.